All right, concessions have been made regarding the finance bill. 18 of them have been dropped so far. We want to tease them out. Okay, I'll climb down. This is what Zakaria is doing right now. And of course, the pressure of the Gen Z. And of course, talking about corruption as well, still rampant in this country. Off the hook is Okothobado, the former governor of Bigori, who has been let go, conceding some of the properties. But is it really amounting to that 2 billion shillings eye-popping figure that he has been alleged to have, of course, have his clammy fingers taken? And the revolution shall be streamed. This is all about Gen Z and the hashtag reject finance bill 2024. Gentlemen, let's just buckle down to it. Some of the concessions that have been made so far, people are just saying this is, as we've read, and we've had that particular story, that this is just pulling wool over our eyes as far as the concessions are made. So you're giving with one hand and taking with the other. Patrick, let's begin with you.
I think that skepticism is probably very is justified.
It's justified.
I mean, some of the things that we put there is a no-brainer. I mean, it should never have been there in the first place.
Right.
For an economy like ours. So why put, who in their right mind, and I'm not an economist, there's better people here, who in their right mind would look at a country like Kenya and put those things into the budget? It doesn't make sense. And with that, it just says that, yeah, somebody must have put this in with a different purpose. And that is the thinking that we're seeing all over, everywhere in Kenya. Hii kitu wameweka hapo sasa sisi, you know, we talk about this kume, they're bringing something in from behind.
Indeed.
Yeah?
Deflectionary tactics.
And
yes.
it is all, I think that is a statement that is not about the budget process. It's about the dissatisfaction around the fact that we're putting money into an endless hole and we're seeing nothing coming out with the other end in terms of development. That is the bottom line. Yeah. So when people are saying there is something else they're doing somewhere, it's just saying that they want to just continue filling that bottomless hole and we see nothing going on. And that's a statement that you're hearing people saying around that this thing has been introduced for that reason. So I would hesitate to add anything else to this budget. Yeah? What I would have done is just to tweak a few things, but then focus on reducing the wastage that we have and putting in legislation that actually reduces wastage in the country. Yeah? And I think we have been talking about having transparency in terms of how money is spent in this country. And technology, most corporations these days, you can actually have your profit and loss account actually as you're sitting on the desk, you can see by the minute how your organization is performing in terms of money going in, money going out, your expenditure, everything else, and your net profit at the end of the day, you can have it minute by minute because of technology, real time, right? So for a government that you're saying you want to build Konza City, we've got IFMIS, we've got eCitizen, we've got all these technology platforms and everything else. How is it that the Auditor General is finding all these things that which are not being done properly, and yet you have all these systems? I think for me, that statement about, you know, something is going to come around behind, yes, let's be very afraid as Kenyans. But the key thing, the message that sends for me is we need to really sharpen how we control expenditure in this country. It's not about oversight bodies, it's about processes that lock down so that the expenditure is transparent. Yeah? I mean, look at the, you know, this whole furore around the, you know, the jets that the president went with to the US, right? It started off one way and it came back something different. If that thing had been done transparently, somebody could have just gone and looked at the button and said, that's how much it cost, right? Or if it was given by a friend, obviously there's a declaration process, right? And that is there in the laws that operate in this country. So before leaving for the US, I would have written down, I was given a jet by my friend, so that it's available. So Prof here can just go quickly and open up the portal and he can find the information. And I think really we need as a country to get to a situation whereby we've got full transparency of public expenditure. And once that happens, in this issue of, oh, kuna kitu, you know, you're removing this and there's something from behind there will disappear. For me, that is a symptom of mistrust. And that mistrust is what is driving the Gen Z now to go out and start making noise. They do not trust those people in parliament. They don't trust the people who are in the laws. They are saying we are fed up. Right?
Right, there's another narrative in town that the Gen Z, maybe somebody is steamrolling this. I've seen some political analysts trying to advance that idea that they're being sponsored. And this is just leading up to, of course, the Jasmine Revolution, you know, the Arab Spring. This is where now it is going.
I have relatives who have been on the street. Yeah, my nephews, nieces, or whatever it is. And I sat down with them yesterday. I said, so what, you guys, what, you know, to understand this, because, you know, they did it, and we just had them saying, we are going off. And to do what? We are going to protest. I know these people who have always been sitting at home, and you never thought that they're going to go out there. All of a sudden, they're going out and they're ready with everything.
Absolutely.
Right? And you wonder, what has changed in this place?
But what has changed?
They are money raising. They've got funding platforms, crowdfunding.
The crowdfunding on
These
social
people
media.
don't understand that these guys have got crowdfunding. And if you've got 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 of these people, each one gives 100 shillings, 50 shillings, 200, 1,000, 2,000, yeah? That very quickly becomes a huge pot. So these guys who are saying that they're being funded, they're thinking in the old model. They're completely confused.
Right. Professor Kituro?
Yeah, I think I want to pick from where Patrick was coming in. If you look at the Business Daily, page 3, actually the numbers come out there. And if you are a person who likes numbers, it's very clear. If you look at, there's a graph there talking about employment by age group percent. Look at the 20 to 24, 15.6%. If you take those young people, let's say up to 34 there, you're seeing over almost 30% there. So these are reflection. These are the people who are feeling the pinch, who are there. And also the table there is also telling. Look at the 2022. Manufacturing had almost 16% jobs created in 1,000. It has gone to 1.1. It tells you. Those are the numbers. They're very clear what is happening. But I want to step back what...
It's going to 11. Huh?
Yeah. But I want to go back to what you asked. And I think it's, by God's sake, I think the government should treat us with some level of intelligence. I suspect, and I could be wrong here, that we listened to you guys. We brought all this, we have listened, we have pulled them back. Further, when the PS, and this is extremely worrying, and one of my student on Tuesday said, these people don't use their head. How do you put something and then you throw it out? The PS for Treasury Dr. Kipto, could not actually explain about the 25%. It's worrying. That's the technocrat. So God knows what else could have gone wrong in this kind of work they're talking about. To me, and when you, and we need, I don't know how you get these people, because if you talk to one, they cannot listen. Somebody like Katori, who for practical purpose should have retired and start doing other things to help the youth come up. Nobody has said that we don't want to pay taxes. But by heaven's sake, let's see what the taxes are doing. If I'm going to increase the levy for petrol, and then as I step back to the rural area, I can't go home when it rains, so why am I paying the taxes? I think that's a narrative. Kenyans, and it's out of line for authority to say we should pay taxes. Yes, but we want to see what those taxes are doing. And that's what we are asking. So in my understanding, and when you look even cases, and you said we will talk about a band or whatever, yes. How does guy get this kind of money? The other day, I don't know what he was, before he became a governor, you couldn't trace anything in him. All of a sudden, he's a governor. We are now talking of billions he has. And it's very important that we get what the young people are telling us. And the good thing is, this thing is not just in Nairobi. You know, earlier on, we just used to have it in Nairobi and Mombasa. It's all over. Today it's in Nyeri, it's in Eldoret, it's whatever. And that's a very good signal to listen. I once told the chairman of a board, and I think it was not my friend here, I once told the chairman of a board, it's good to listen, because that's why God give you 1 month and 2 years. He hit the roof. I think the government need to listen. When you hear Kuria here talking about Ishangwa, and things they don't realize. They have actually it's like after 5 years, you have this thing in the computers. They had, you erase everything. A virus comes and erases everything. In 5 years, some of these people will not be in government. They'll be talking a different ball game. It's important to understand what you say today is so important. So when you get Kuria Kimani, whatever his name is, did a lying to us, it's not lying. I think we have even gone beyond. We have combined two things, which is it's actually serious: corruption and lying.
Bunyasi Sakwa, I had also Kimani Kuria saying that the fuel levy and that fuel levy cannot be part of the finance bill. Well, I wanted just to follow the thought because I didn't really understand it.
Yeah. First of all, let me pick up where Prof has left. And I just want to say that trend in which people tend not to tell, deliver information as truthfully as they know it is very risky. It's a high risk thing. I think we have talked around this stage, but also generally now in the knowledge economy, evidence-based communication is what is encouraged. That you don't say you can't get an agreement in this large, huge table of the whole nation if what you're conveying is a lie, which means it's not factual, it's not grounded in reality. So I respond to something that's not grounded in reality. You respond to what you have responded and what I said and what. Now that's a real problem. I think people in the public space should be driven largely by numbers. Where numbers are. You pointed us to the graph on
the numbers there.
On page 3. I am a little concerned about the big drop between 2024 age group. I expect it to be high. Thought it would be higher than this. That's the age group in which people are still in school. They don't have many out-of-school jobs and so on. So they're likely to be largely unemployed. But the definition of unemployment also, we need to understand it. It's, I think, the old ILO definition of it was that somebody able and willing to work, but not finding work, something along those lines. You may be doing nothing, but you're not unemployed because you're not even looking. There's some technical difference. But so 15.6 for me looked a bit lower than it was. I thought it would be higher, probably in the 30s. But the drop from that age group to the next is huge.
It's huge.
It drops by 10%.
Yeah.
So there is something there about that transition. But anyway, the idea is that public officials and the chair of the finance committee, who was my colleague in the last parliament, Francis Kuria Kimani, I think probably the heat of things, they say things sometimes that are not entirely data-based. I don't want to say fact, but at least data-based. And I think it's very important. In Parliament, they have a very powerful parliamentary budget office that does a lot of number crunching. They're one of the best teams in the country. They should really go in there and use that. That would change the debate, not make it any nicer, but it would mean that now we are all debating on where we are and how to move it. I am concerned about
with facts.
Yes, with facts. Yes. Now the lying, even the public space, that should be punishable by law. You can't factually misrepresent information in a way to achieve a goal other than what would have been if people had the right information. So where that has occurred, I think that needs to be clamped down. I am hopeful that Generation Z, they are better educated generally than the rest of the population. They are better educated than our own age groups were, years back. They have the data on their handphones, so they're not just reading love stories, that they can also now look up data. That they probably can generate graphs among them also. I hope that they will uplift the quality of debate to be fact-based. And lastly, in case I forget to make a comment on this, this development that we are getting of the Generation Z, which in the old parlance of Kenya, everything was about a tribe. We'll call this the 46th. We have 45. The 46th tribe of Generation Z. They cut across ethnicities, but they belong to a certain age group that feels endangered, as it were, relative to the rest of the environment. That's how you define a tribe largely. Yeah?
They don't go back to their communities.
They don't know. The community is not now part of their tribe. No.
Right.
Their tribe is the circumstances under which they exist and the dangers they see upon their subgroup. Lack of jobs, they want due process, and so on and so forth. Now, you find a policeman facing a young girl there. No, that's not quite correct. Facing a young person. She was a woman, one of those. And you are trying to bundle her up. I think that shouldn't even happen with a male police officer. She's not a physical threat to you in any way. And if you're going to do any shoving, get the women officers to be among them. And that is going to be repulsive very quickly, because you're treating young people, women among them, in ways that are completely out of style. And I saw there's a woman going up, a young woman going up. She was a bit heavy set, and somebody's trying to help her up. And it has shown up twice. And I was curious, is that a woman trying to help her up, or some man? It was a man.
It amounts to under the sexual offense.
Yes.
It's a sexual offense, actually.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that kind of thing. So that I think are going to be new lessons to be learned. But I think that dealing with this new one is going to require the government side to speak truth to their people. For these other people also speak truth to the authority.
Right.
Yeah, because we've had a lot of lying even among those protesting before. They would misrepresent figures and so on and so forth to make a point. I was a bit disappointed to see Azimio politicians there in Mombasa, with the protesters. They're trying to usurp is not the right word, to divert attention.
In Madare.
Yeah.
They were in Madare.
Use up is actually the right word.
Is that it?
They're trying to use up.
That's the word I should.
They want to ride on the cusp of it.
Yes. For
Not even like they want to take the glory,
Yes.
And they ride on it.
And the destination that they would be heading are not going to be the same as the Generation Z. The Generation Z is much more qualitative, even in their protest, than the politicians who are singularly looking at what do we do in 2027.
Right.
How do we get up a notch, and so on and so forth. It will change the politics, but hopefully we'll all move towards data-based. And I would add fact. Fact is a more controversial word, but data is not.
It was quite interesting.
Now let me,
It was quite interesting for this young lady. One of the protesters, when the police went at them and said, "How much do you earn? This protest is about you. It's not about anybody else."
As you were telling the police officer.
You're earning 18,000 shillings on a little school fees, and where do you pay? How can you afford that? This protest is about you. It's not about anybody else. That compared to throwing stones at them, that is sharper than any stone you throw to that guy.
Indeed. Right. Of course, asking very poignant question. Which part of a law have I contravened? And the police officer is taken aback a bit. He can't answer that question, and he just
he's on social media.
And he's on social media as well.
Now, on the question just on the road maintenance levy or the fuel levy, this is an act of parliament. What Kimani Korea was saying in parliament is not true. That this is an amendment that will be done through regulations. It doesn't go through the law. There is an act of parliament called Road Maintenance Levy Act. That came up in 1993. And we started off with 3 shillings. Over the years, they have been adjusting it. So I think now it's 18 shillings per litre. And then raising it by 9 shillings means you are raising it by 50%. This is madness. You don't do that kind of thing, really. And finance bill, last year we've seen has become an omnibus. They push many of the amendments, miscellaneous amendments, which ideally would have been through the miscellaneous amendment bill. But they used to, and last year, Tata went to court on that issue, you remember? Because they were amending many other acts of parliament using the finance bill. So this is the same thing now. So in the report, there is an amendment that they want to bring to the Road Maintenance Levy Act so that they can increase the figure from that 18 to 27, which actually is a huge amount, and it will mean the cost of transport will go up, not just for businesses but for transport, for matatus and everything else. The cost of transport, so I think the government is giving with one hand and taking away another. This is why people are saying this bill we're not. That's why the protests are on still.
Yeah.
People are saying we are not satisfied with the.
You know that road maintenance levy is charged even on diesel that is not used on the road. That's the stupidity about that. You know, it's a great idea, but it needs to be tweaked. Because if I'm running diesel in a factory, right, what road am I damaging so that it has to be maintained? Yeah? And that, in a way, you know, all this, so I'm charged to deliver to the factory, and then the factory is charged to manufacture if they're using diesel as fuel.
Maybe to even run a generator there.
And the generator and everything else. So this is all, when you look at
even
levies,
the tractors that they use it in the farms.
That you're using in the farms.
But even,
it's a productive
even
activity.
Even the cars, look at the state of our roads.
Yeah.
And you're paying a levy here. Really, every day you are actually in the shop buying spare parts.
Yeah,
so you're actually taking it and you're not helping at all.
You know, the sad thing is that the road maintenance levy is actually being used as capital to build new roads. Where does the roads board get its money? The roads board gets its money from the levy. They're the ones who actually run that fund.
Go back and tell me which new route has been done for the last 5 years.
No. They've built a lot of new roads, but the road maintenance levy was to actually maintain the new ones, the old ones, and keep them motorable so people could use them. And then when you're going to build a new road, you actually justify that as capital expenditure with the government. And what has happened is the roads board now is actually funding mainly capital expenditure, not recurrent.
What about the railway levy? Because I think also that is...
that one is another scandalous, let me tell you.
Yes.
I'm not in parliament, but I think if he gets to some office of power, my friend, he should pursue that matter, because when this thing...
Thank you. I hope to get into office.
Yes, you should. We're praying for you.
You say, please, amen. You say, amen.
The railway development levy came in 2016 when the government took that loan from China. And in fact, I did some workings on this thing several times in the last few years. And it comes to approximately, when you look, because it's based on the CI value of the imports, whatever you import, and it's like the IDF. So when you work out, the figure has always been in the region of between 30 to 40 billion shillings. It's a lot of money. And the concept was, the objective was to use it to pay that SGR loan. Yeah. But in essence, what has happened, it has just become one of the taxes that go into the consolidated funds for the government. So it's not, it has no relationship at all with the repayment of that loan. It has actually, when you can calculate now, you can go, when you later take your calculator and just find out, or get the figures from the KRA publishes what they collect every year. So the amount of money would have paid that loan already. But because it's being used in the consolidated fund, so I've raised it. In fact, several times I've asked members of parliament, why don't you guys stop this thing, because it's no longer being used for the purpose for which it was meant. And it's not the only levy, by the way. Many of the levies are no longer being used for the purposes for which they were initially meant, like the road, you just mentioned it. That's why, we believe many of us see the government as being crafty. What they want to do is every time they want to increase some tax, they avoid touching VAT or whatever, they bring it in the form of a levy. An example is the industry I'm in, we pay 2% the last 3 years. They call it nuts and oil crop development levy. Yeah. It's 2%. It's billions of shillings every year. It is meant then to develop sunflower and cultivation. Nothing is being used absolutely in that area. It just goes to treasury as revenue. So this is common in government. I mean, they've used that, and that's why there are over 100 levies in this country.
Right, and I've seen also some relief for the breweries as well on ethanol. That now what they will do is have the excess duty when you're importing ethanol. I think there's something to do with ethanol there. I don't know what was so it will not be by the alcohol by volume content, which was also very contentious. I don't know. You're the one who takes King George. You can tell us.
My King George is in this. I don't touch that stuff. I haven't done for almost 20 years. I haven't had any alcohol. Yeah, but it was. I think they were doing it by volume. They're doing the the excise by volume. But I think what has happened here is they just want to raise tax on alcohol, yeah, and they're trying to raise more tax on the same amount of alcohol by using a different calculation. So instead of using it by alcohol content, you're using it by the volume that alcohol content is in. So that gives you more volume to charge on. And it's just gone back to where it was before. That's
So nothing has really changed.
It hasn't changed that drastically, but I don't have the details. But for me, when I look at it, and the figures that our guys said, it's not coming significant.
Bill, then would you tell us also, because I think this is right up your alley as well, with the letters on the edible oil. I think there was hue and cry on that with, was it the 35%?
No, they had proposed an excise duty.
Excise
the
duty
government
of-
seems to have
How much was it?
25% on the
25%
crude
of the
and
crude.
25 on the processed. That would make it 50, and then they had removed that right to offset the excise on the raw material. With the offset with the excise on the finish, they had removed also that one. But now I think after the meeting, it was raised. I think KEPSA when they met with the president, from what we hear, and I think it has now been removed. So it's among the proposals that have been removed, because then otherwise it would have raised the cost of cooking oil by up to 80%. It would have been unaffordable completely in this country. So we hope that in the finance bill, then in the report it is there. So I hope it will be deleted.
All right. You were meeting the Senate committee on finance bill.
No.
Not on finance bill. Okay.
Not on
Now you
finance,
clarify,
it's,
because I was when not on finance bill. Yeah. Okay. Because I was wondering, how do they come in with the finance bill?
No. All I
is-
said is that sometimes there are items in the finance bill that touch on counties.
All right.
That therefore, if you do that, then it makes it dangerous, because the finance bill then has to go to Senate to be discussed if they have those elements. So they have to be very careful what they put in there, that it doesn't touch on county revenue.
All right, so I needed just to get also clarification, just because it seems this fuel levy is going to fly at the end of the day, and it's running concurrently with the finance bill. So this confusion that is there, that we can hear also from the finance committee chair telling us, we need just to get clarification. How then do you countermand that? If it's being raised from 18 to 26%, I think that's a huge leap, so to speak. We can have all these concessions, right? 18 of them, then still fuel will go up, will still remain at the same place that we were, or even worse, moving forward. And still people will be on the streets, because the cost of fuel, of course, will float everything up as far as the cost of living is concerned.
Pump price. And
I think what is happening here.
Let's see if from Geturo then come to you.
It will show up in the pump price, and people.
Yeah.
It's very interesting with Kenyans. Right now, we are spot on the finance bill. Give it 3 months, everything has gone down. I hope the new wave will continue. And that's the time now to bring those things. They will come in.
Yeah. I think what I was going to say is...
And they're saying it affects everybody.
Yeah.
Kerosene does. You and I, matatu. It will affect everybody. And that's the thing the government does. You make the noise. One time Laida said, Kenyans are like Ngere, Wato. If a lion lands after a Wato and hides a bit, the Wato forgets. Then it goes for it nicely. I think it's something we need to really carry on. It's going to hit us, and it's going to come in, and others will come in.
And I think what Bilo said around the fact that, and what you asked earlier on, that all these other taxes on bread, water, and everything else was a smoke screen, so that these other ones can come in, which are levies. Levies, that is the bane of Wananchi. Levies are introduced. Some of them were ostensibly introduced for a purpose, as you said. Yeah. And the railway levy was meant for a purpose, and is still with us. Yeah. We had, for example, there was within the petroleum, there's a levy for EPRA, and in the electricity as well that you pay, there's a levy that runs EPRA. Yeah. Now what has happened is that levy has grown with the volume that is taking place, but has the role of EPRA changed? It is still the same box.
Yeah.
So these guys are getting a lot of money, which they should not really be having, as the economy grows and as the volume grows, EPRA still actually, all it does is talk about the fuel price, it licenses, and does all those things, which are still the same, but is earning almost, from the time it was formed to now, the revenue, because at that time the price of a liter of fuel was only in the 80s, 80 shillings. It went up to 160, so it doubled the revenue they were getting, from the levy, from the fuel levy. Those things should be looked at separately, and not and the cost of each levy justified on what it was intended to achieve, not just to increase it, and then that money goes into government, and then it is then spent on other things, right? And that, I think, is what you are going to find, that whatever protest you call them, Occupy Parliament, they're now they're occupying Mombasa, occupying Kisumu, they're now occupying every town they're going into. They know all this, and what they're going to do just to put pressure, right? And I think that's what saying the new dawn, the cheese has moved, right? The cheese has moved, and if you don't move with the cheese, you'll be caught with your pants down.
Right. Bill Okero, you wanted to say something?
No, I think the government is taking the easy option out, rather than people in Parliament and Treasury sitting down after that proposal, sitting down and saying, where shall we reduce? Because they had suggested that the impact would be around 60 to 70 billion on the revenue. So they would simply have taken a pen and pencil and go back to the estimates and find out how to reduce 60 from the expenditure, and which is very easy to do. From what we have said, there's a lot of wastage and inefficiencies and duplications and so forth. But what they have done is to go for the easiest one. Don't touch the expenditure. Why? Because expenditure belongs to people. Everyone wants to protect his staff. Every minister, every ministry, every state agency wants to. Nobody wants his or her expenditure to be touched. So what they do is go back to the finance bill and tweak it. So put in, raise the fuel levy by 9 shillings, 50%.
They're only paying two things I hear these days.
And import levies, they're introducing, by the way, which should be a concern for if you're meeting, I think, tomorrow, because this import promotion levy is a disincentive to businesses. And they are introducing now, last year it was on a few items like the metal industry, paper and construction industry. Now they're expanding it to more than 10 products. And so the argument is that we are charging this in order to use it for promoting, we want to promote expenditure. We want to discourage imports so that people can. But the reason why our exports are declining is not because of that. That only is about our competitiveness. Our cost of production is the one that is where the trouble is. You need to deal with power. You need to deal with taxes. You need to deal with other issues. Then we can be competitive, and nobody will be bringing things from outside. But you say, no, don't bring this phone. We'll make ours. So if our phone is going to be twice the price of that one, then you are making the cost of living expensive for your people. So really the flip side is making life very difficult for people.
And it's on a downward spiral. I mean, if you put those things to not bring those things, then it becomes more expensive internally, and life is just going to get more miserable. And our ability to export is just going to.
I don't know how much you interact with the ministries, but I do. It's really, I think it's worrying. You talk with economists, they're just there. And they're only paying two things: the salary and the houses they rent. There's nothing for development. And those houses they lend, and the government is very notorious for that, they belong to some big guys in town.
Of course, that's obvious.
Where NTSA is, we know who owns that building, right? Where another ministry moved to Tower, Hassana Towers, whatever, we know who owns the building. So those are the only things they're paying. Salaries and rents for those houses.
In fact, even to emphasize your point, our total budget this year is 4 trillion, isn't it?
Yes.
Have you looked at the development allocation? Total development budget is 790 something. It's less than 20%. 80% of the money does not, less than 20% for development. And by the way, even last year, that 20% was not fully spent, about half because of absorption issues, because of delays in procurement processes, and all manner of things. So that's why people are not seeing development. That's why projects are getting stalled all over the country. So there are challenges. Really, it's not about just collecting revenue. Government needs to focus on how to
execution.
Yes,
execution. Look at the road outside here.
Yes, yes, yes.
How long
yeah,
has
it has been done
how long has it been?
almost a year now.
This
No,
is
2
something
years.
that should be done in 3 months. The work that is being done outside this
Yeah,
studio.
even
3
today
months.
I missed my sport actually to just get in. I had to go
you did
all
as
the way.
well?
I did, just as you did. Yeah, I'm normally here
I was
every
nearly
day.
left here. I was nearly left here to start the program.
I was also calling Patrick K now. You need
Hi,
to start
Don.
handling,
Yeah. Started from me, I'm coming.
But I'll be remiss if, because I know Bilo, you have to leave a bit early
Yes, I
today.
leave at 8:30.
Even you have to leave. Today is a board meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I always say we should
9.
declare it Thursday as National Boards Meeting. Right?
Today I'm not leaving.
I'm
Gitolo
not,
is not
I'm not
taking
in
his
the
colours,
board,
yeah.
so I'm okay. I'm a freelancer.
Yeah, especially on this MPs clipping KRAs. This is what is on the front page of a Business Daily.
Yeah.
The power to waive taxes. Is it now because of the lessons that people have learned from KRA, especially on the waiver, when you're seeking waiver? For the last, I think for the longest time also, many people have been on the special table because of waivers or maybe boarding the e-teams. And they at some point, for so many years, KRA had stopped the waiving of those taxes, and they were frozen. And people are really frustrated. They can't waive, you can't get your tax clearance certificate at the end of the day. What do you think about this? Should MP go this way? I mean, the MPs?
No, first, you see, the Constitution is very clear. The power to waive any tax lies only with Parliament. It must be through legislation. There is no minister or government office that has power to waive. So when they are doing any waiver, it must have been provided for by legislation. Now, there are 2 things which I think I want to just comment on that. There is tax waivers which are standard and is provided for in law, and it's the practice in many parts of the world. For example, for businesses, if you're an investor, there are certain capital allowances you are allowed over a period of time to recover, to recoup the money that you have invested in businesses. This is common, and this is one of the largest. When you hear about tax waivers, this is what KRA, when this government came to power, said, Uhuru was giving people 650 billion. These are mainly things which, and there are quite a number of those kind of things. Then there are those ones which, through bilateral arrangements, like this Japanese one, which has been in the media, and so forth. China, when they were building SGR, everything that they imported, 327 billion worth of goods, not a single shilling was raised on taxes. They were given a waiver. Those kind of things, based on projects or bilateral agreements, they must be anchored in law. The minister cannot exercise that power. Then the third one is the one that is now subject to abuse, where, from what we are told, in governments, what happens in treasury. So you have a business, but you are connected, and they will find a way in which treasury would advise KRA in writing that taxes relating to this and this and this person, government will handle it. And that, I think, has happened, I'm told, for some of the well-connected people during the time of the former regime. That's one of the areas that I'm told. But it happens in all these governments. An example I will tell you, for example, if as Muslims, during the month of Ramadan, we import dates for breaking fast. So Treasury would normally then announce that there will be a waiver on taxes on import of dates to be used in the month of Ramadan. And so they would write to KRA. And KRA would then say, who will pay that tax for the waiver? Treasury would undertake that they will be the ones who will. You must account for, because it's an administrative matter. It's not something in law. So if you're doing it, then someone must pay that bill. So Treasury says, we'll pay. Those kind of personal businesses, I think private businesses, I'm told, people in Treasury have always used to try and give some people waiver on tricks that they're going to pay, they don't pay. That kind of thing, I'm told, is the one that the main concern here. But these other ones where last category, like the 2 banks that merged, where Treasury or KRA exercises some power and says we have waived this and we waived that.
Yes.
Otherwise, the normal powers that they used for waiving penalties is provided for in the finance, like the tax amnesty, provides that they waive interests and penalties. Those things are provided for. So outside the law, you really cannot. And so I think by restricting, I have to know to find out which specific areas they are trying to focus on. Yeah.
Who cares about the law?
All right, we're about to take a short break.
It's also to get order.
Can we just allow him just also to comment, because he's been in the Senate and off the hook or Kothobado, that particular issue. I find it a bit interesting because yes, I think the best way is to just exterminate all evidence. All right, incoming governor of
fire is the best thing.
Busia as well. Yeah, this is what used to. They borrowed a book from the script from Nairobi County or Nairobi City Council. Most of the times you'll see it being raised down by fire to burn the evidence.
You need to buy the safe like Nyadara was buying. You remember what's
What were they doing?
They were buying a safe. I don't know if it was all about
There's a huge safe that they're supposed to do to sort of protect county documents.
Yeah. Bilo, so this particular story, it's very interesting.
Yes.
And how it's being settled out in court.
But
I fail
it
to
may
understand.
be interesting, but it's not unusual, and it's not the only exceptional. I mean, it has happened many times. Under the law, there is a provision for ESCC to go into an out-of-court settlement on issues to make. And I think this out-of-court settlement, particularly DPP, has been encouraging, especially the former DPP has really been pushing that. It's an easier way of recovering assets that have been lost in corruption, because prosecution tends to take a very long time, and quite often government has not been successful in prosecution of cases. We've seen what happened last year when this administration came in. Dozens of cases were withdrawn for one reason or the other. So I think for this organization, they have in recent years then thought the best way of recovery is to go into an out-of-court discussion. And they say, look, this is the amount that we suspect has been stolen by your administration. How much are you willing to pay back? And this is what I think must have happened.
Yeah.
Of course, then when you look at the amount, 2 billion,
Yeah,
then the
40
amount being
40
paid is
million.
10%.
So you can't explain that.
No, let me finish. Order.
I think he's really agitated.
in the parliament campaign. Order.
You know how prosecutions work. You'll be charged on the basis of figures sometimes that they believe has been lost. But in terms of proving how much of that has actually you can prove in a court of law beyond reasonable doubt becomes a challenge.
Yeah.
So then the amount that is being negotiated quite often is based on how much you actually have tangible evidence to push, in terms of that's why. So but of course then politics also is there. I don't think this kind of thing would also happen without some sort of goodwill out
What
there.
does the law say about if? What does the law say? Is there idea that
there is a plea bargaining these days
yes,
in Kenya?
you can.
Yeah, there's plea bargaining, and this is basically that's what this is. It's a plea bargain.
Not just this day, it's been around for long.
It's been
For a long
around.
time, but it was never activated. I've only
No,
seen
yeah.
it in the last 2-3 years. It's the
the
beginning.
former
so we
DPP.
can go in Kahoot with you, put it at 3 billion,
Yeah.
you charge me this, and it's done.
Yeah.
And then
No, no,
just a ball
it's
game.
what you
What
find
makes you think
it's
that
what is admissible,
What is
and then you look at the
admissible as
cost of pursuing it,
Yes.
right? And then you say,
You net out
in the
some
interest
net
of everybody, you net out. And
Yeah,
this
but
is a
we can
reasonable
work
thing.
it out.
Yeah.
And that's what has happened here.
Yeah.
I thought it was
so you
about the-
designed and you game the system, of course, with the law. This is what really happens. You go with the eye-popping figure. Of course, you'll part with the 40 million and the 57 million and all this real estate now that you've acquired. You cannot really explain.
Stealing is these days a science.
It's a science.
You look at your risk profile, you do everything else, and you look at the risk of being caught and the values and the killer kit, and you say, fine, eventually I'll end up with so much. Is it worth stealing?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if I'm jailed for 5 years, of course, the money
The
will
one-
be working for me. I don't need to work.
Can you go the
Still-
same way the one he had with the lady who was killed?
No, that one you can't.
He can't.
That
I
one-
thought he would
that
go
is
the
a
same
Criminal.
way.
This one is
That is
civil
criminal.
suit.
This is civil.
This is criminal.
This is also criminal, right?
It's criminal.
It's criminal also, yes.
This is also criminal, but the other one the statutes under which it is makes it a lot more
You seem
difficult.
to have forgotten that completely.
All right, it's been okay. We need to take a short break right now. When we circle back, of course, you can comment on this, and all of us on this as well.
No, yeah, I don't care much for Bado. Let him. let him go home. On this matter.
We take a short break.
Coming from
That is so honest of you.
my brother.
No holds bar. I don't care so much about Bado.
In the order of things, today, the headlines and so on, this is now looks like a small matter.
The only thing I see, you have run away from our institution.
No, because